Hey, Armand here with your forecast for the week of April 11th, Anno Domini 2021. That's Common Era, just so that nobody gets lost in time over here. Well, this is the week of the Aries new moon, and the Aries new moon is sort of like the prototypical new moon. It is the beginning time for whatever you want. You get a free pass. You can set intentions. You can plant the seeds for anything that you want at this new moon. It is the real beginning of the year. That's one of there's a lot of beginnings of the year. There's Rosh Hashanah in September. There's New Year's Eve in January. There's Chinese New Year. There's the Aries ingress when the sun goes into Aries. But I like this one because it's the beginning in the sense of the solar cycle is waxing and getting large, getting bigger, and the lunar cycle is also beginning at the same time. So there's a kind of everybody's, well, not everybody, but the sun and the moon are both starting their cycles together. At any rate, it is certainly with the moon in Aries and the sun in Aries, it is a time of beginnings. And so we plant the seed. And the basic thing for this week is that we set the intentions early. Sunday would be a great time. You just put it in there. This is what I want to happen. This is what I'm looking for. This is what I want to manifest, type of thing. And then it'll be great. You got to do a little something when you do that. Light a candle or some incense, a little bit of fire, since Aries is a fire sign. And, you set that in there and then you kind of let it go. And then I'm thinking maybe on Monday sometime after the moon goes into Taurus in the afternoon, that would be a great time to just take a small little step towards manifestation. Nothing big. It's too new to do something big. If you're looking for a new job, you check we used to say the want ads in the paper, but you check to see what's available. And so you just do a little bit of research. When you can see the moon in the sky, or in this case, I'm not even going to be that way about it. I'm going to say when the moon is in Taurus, and I'm thinking Tuesday, that's a good time to really take some concrete steps, some real firm, earthy steps. It's a good time to, it's a good time for planting, literally. And so approach it in that kind of way. You're really getting things started. You're actually going out into the earth. I'm going to actually do some planting on Tuesday. And then as the week goes on, it's, you might want to communicate as the moon goes into Gemini towards the end of the week. You do some communication, and then we need water, and that would be on the weekend. And that's going to be the first quarter moon next weekend, the weekend of the 17th and 18th. And that's the real time of major action. What you've been kind of working on behind the scenes, doing prep work for, gets pushed out there. Simple and easy, right? Okay. Hiccup is the sun square to Pluto on Friday. This is a prominent energy for us then on Thursday and Friday. Now the sun, the king in Aries, with a sort of a warrior king type of thing, and Pluto in Capricorn. Well, this is the push-pull between the king, who might want to, go annex another territory, might want to expand the castle, might want to, build a housing project or museum or something like that, and the bankers, the financiers on the other side of things. Who, if you're going to do any of those things, you need money. And these folks hold the money. And so we get this sort of tension between the two. And the question is, who's really in charge? Now, from one perspective, the bankers are really in charge. If the king can't get the money for the project, it's just not going to happen. So in that sense, the king is kind of beholden to the bankers. On the other hand, the king has a sort of moral force, a sort of symbolic power, much like the solar system, where the sun holds the whole system, including Pluto, together, right? And so it's the meaning, it's the sense of purpose, it's the sense of what we're here to do. And if that isn't there, if the sun wasn't there, all the planets, well, they just go flying off into oblivion, including Pluto. So the real gravitational power, the real central power, is really with the sun, and is strong in Aries, by the way, but is really with the sun in any case. But there's Pluto. Now, how does this play out? How do we think about this? If we take it down a notch, it's the struggle between following like the heart and what you need to do for yourself, the meaning in your life, and on the other hand, attending to practicalities and obligations. So if you don't do well, if you don't attend to the practicalities of physical life, well, then you're not going to go off and do what you want to do because you won't be here anymore. On the other hand, if you're not doing what you're here to do, what's the point of surviving? Right? So you need to survive in order to do what you want to do. But you need to do what you want to do to make survival worthwhile. That's a bit of a conflict. How is that going to play out? Let's go down another level. How does that look? I'll give you some scenarios, but this is not going to happen to you. This is just, this is just vague sort of stuff. Let's say it could be the conflict between taking a day off and really going and do that thing that you love to do, and having a lot of work obligations and maybe not being able to get a day off at all. Right? That's one possible scenario. It could be about you want to take a day and paint a portrait, do some creative work there, but you also feel that you should go paint the living room ceiling where there was that water leak last year. That's the kind of conflict we might be looking at. Generally speaking, it's the sense of doing what your heart tells you to do and then attending to obligations. And it's really hard because these things are square to each other. I think that, astrologically speaking, we would say the sun has the stronger position, but you don't want to presume on Pluto and Capricorn any day of the week. So it is a tension there. The sun will also be hitting Aries, the planet of discord, which is quite a just sort of might send you off a little bit too, sort of potentially empowering. And that's the strategy as you get stuck here. Well, first of all, remember that we can have, this is an internal conflict for most of us, but internal conflicts can be played out with other people. And so somebody, you might be the son who wants to get off, and then the supervisor says you can't have the day off, so they're being Pluto. Or, you might be the supervisor and somebody wants the day off, but you got to get something done and it has to get done. So it could go either way. Sort of conflict we're looking at the end of the week. The strategy is to use this tension, because remember we planted the seed in Aries and all that. The strategy is to use that tension in a creative way as motivation. Can I push through? And when the moon gets into Cancer, there we have our decision time. There we have our necessary decision. It's a bit of a mishmash right there too, because the moon in Cancer is likely to be kind of conservative and a little bit more leaning over towards being, secure and protective of those things that need to be done. And yet the moon will also oppose Pluto. You can definitely get a kind of both sides of the story there. Ultimately, of course, that's great, because the real answer is it's up to you, and it's up to you not only to decide what you're going to do, but it's also up to you to figure out how to balance these two, very reasonable in their own way, very important forces in your life. That's a lot of talk just about Thursday and Friday, but it's not just about Thursday and Friday. It's about the week. It's at the beginning of the cycle. It's whatever you're trying to manifest and make happen is going to come up against something like this to one extent or another. There's 8 billion people on the planet. We're not talking about everybody, but this is a possibility for you. Now, the other thing that is happening this week is more on the relationship side of things. Venus, the planet of love and relationship, has been very busy this past weekend and will continue to be busy. And who else is busy is partnership asteroid Juno, who is Jupiter's wife. And she's currently in his sign and will station to retrograde on Monday. And not only are Venus and Juno both active, but they are actually in a trine relationship to each other, or they were this past weekend, Well, so Venus has met with Eris, has squared Pluto. Venus is going to leave Aries and go into her home sign of Taurus on Wednesday. And Venus also trined Juno, stationing to retrograde, opposed to Mars. It's a little complicated. It would be complicated. Here's some possibilities. How are all of these energies getting along with each other? Well, I'm thinking that we have something that looks a little bit like it could be a love triangle, could be a menage a trois, right? I mean, who knows? It could be trying to figure out this person or that person. Now, with Juno stationing to retrograde, I'm thinking that a lot of people are going to be pulled back into past relationships, right? That might seem like it's an important thing. So we might have a little bit of a, especially with Mars opposite Juno, we might have a little bit of this thing that sounds like, do I go back to the past? Do I, or do I stick with the present? Or do I move forward? It could be that kind of thing. In general, the question is what we want, what we have or think we can have, and how do these two things relate to each other. There's infinite scenarios for how these things could play out, and there's so many factors involved: Jupiter, Mars, Juno, Venus. There's a lot of stuff going on here, so it can play out in many eras. There are many different ways that it can play out. The bottom line is that there's a lot of relationship activity happening right now. A lot of feels like decisions, a lot of possibilities and decisions. Now, when Venus gets into Taurus, that'll ground things a little bit, but you got to be aware of the fact that at the same time, Venus will also be coming up to an opposition to Uranus, and then eventually, this is all happening within a few weeks, by the beginning of May, will eventually trine Pluto. So while we may have revolution in the short term, resolution will have to wait a little while, but maybe not that long. All right, that's a lot for you. I'll see you next week. Bye-bye. Gotta shut the thing off over here. Stop recording.